Hello everybody and welcome back to another one of those videos where I talk about updates on the Steam version of Dwarf Fortress coming from Toady1 and KitFox. This time we have a post from Tarn, Toady1, on the Bay 12 Games website covering the trade screen and also a little general update. So the first thing he says here is, the last Steam news was concerning beekeeping from earlier this month. But since then, I've mostly been working on the trade screen. It's basically at a good spot now, though there are various bits that could be added. Probably most notably the ability to view items again, as it's not currently compatible with how we have our item sheets set up now. But I can work through it, which is good to hear because I would like to be able to view items. But he says, and a few new lines of text to make the hidden hanging mechanics a little bit more sensible to new players. For counter offers, feel like they trigger at random, but it's actually based on skill rolls. And he links to the wiki, and I will link that in the description. He also notes that most notably there is an item string filters now, and the little merchant in the top left is so low because creatures can be 64 pixels tall now, and dwarves can be even taller than 32 pixels if they have the right hairstyle, he says, I think. But I'll probably adjust the positioning for smaller creatures before the end. These sorts of things add up to make each of these screen rewrites take a lot longer than expected. Well, it's Dwarf Fortress, of course. But another one down brings us that much closer. And he says, next up, we're looking at finishing the labor rewrite and workshop profiles, and then how all that connects up to the military stuff, etc., through the civilian and item assignments. And that's bound to get a little messy. Well, all of that aside, we have the trade screen. So feast your eyes! It's beautiful, isn't it? This is actually very similar to the current trade screen. It's kind of funny because I've had a lot of people talk about the trade screen and say things like, oh, I hope they completely change it, or I hope they completely dump out the old trade screen. This is almost identical, actually, to the in-game trade screen right now. You got items on the left and right. They're a little bit better sorted. As you can see, they're sorted into types with like nice little spacing now. And I think you can just trade by entire types, which is really nice. There's little check boxes on the like far right of each side where I guess you could just select like all of the bags or all of the gems and things. This is going to make like not accidentally trading wooden items to elves a lot easier. I think I put a double negative in there, but I guess you get what I'm saying. So I really quite like the way this is laid out, just because it is quite literally the same trade screen as the current game. And I can imagine how this would look in ASCII quite nicely as well. I also like how the weight is very clearly states weight instead of just having a separate symbol there. Like in the current version, it just has two different symbols for the value and the weight. And I know a lot of people like never actually figure out like, oh, why can't I trade to them? Well, you're trying to trade too many items and they're too heavy, like that. And that's a very real problem that I think a lot of newer players run into. As Tarn was stating, like a lot of the mechanics are a little bit hidden and some newer players will get a little bit confused, and miss some of the more obvious things. The sprite that he's talking about being low is up in the top left. You can see the little dude there who's just like trying to trade. I guess when you're trading with a human, they're going to be like twice as tall, for example, right? And also dwarves can get quite tall, as he said, with the right hairstyle. So I think that's very interesting that they need to make space for it. But as he said, hopefully that will get adjusted as time goes on. I'm really curious to know what you guys think about this UI piece in the comment section. I think that it's all pretty clear, and I could see how this would also fit very well with like the classic version, which won't have graphics, which will still be available for free on the Bay 12 Games website. But also at the same time, I think that this is a perfectly functional trade screen for a new player, making things relatively obvious in every way. I do think that there is maybe like, when he talks about exposing some of the hidden mechanics, I think it would be really nice if they could show like the demanded profit percentage, because it's usually about 30%. They usually want at least a 30% profit or they just won't trade with you. But that does change based on the skill level of the dwarf that is doing the bargaining. So I'd be kind of curious to know if we could maybe expose that specific number and like have a better idea of how much I should sell them before they refuse to trade because we're not giving them enough value. Regardless, I'd like to know what you guys think about this trade screen, and everybody, put your hands together and pray that Toady1 stays healthy and is able to work on this and get her done in a quicker period of time. One other thing I would like to mention before I vanish here is that he did state that he's not finished with the workshop profiles yet, which is what he said that he was working on still 4 months ago, the last time I spoke with him in an interview. I am looking to get him into an interview again sometime the next month or so keep an eye out for that in the future, and thank you very much for watching this YouTube channel once again, and thanks everybody who supports me on Patreon so that I can get these videos out as quick as possible alongside of streaming and everything else that I do. Thank you very much for the support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.